So many military observers, people on Twitter, the Twitterati, if you want to call them that, insofar as open source intelligence and all these people who are commenting on the war in Ukraine, they keep saying that Russia is going so slow. They're not having any breakout success, and that shows that Russia is losing because they're not winning fast enough for these armchair generals taste. They want the war to be over already. Quick, 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 quick. And of course the actual generals who are running this war for the Russians, of course, what's their priority? To minimize the loss of life, of course. That's obvious. And so if that means, taking your sweet time and just methodically grinding out a battle, like the battle taking place in the Donbass right now, and if that means, you're not going to try to do some huge breakout maneuvers, you're just going to steadily grind away with artillery fire day after day after day, and just slowly just advance a little bit at a time, but with a minimum loss of life of your own soldiers, well, they're going to do that, of course. Yeah, they're not interested in making a quick victory because, you see, the Russians have time on their side. They do. They have all the time in the world. They're in no rush. Of course not. They're winning. They're winning this war, whether you like it or not. And so they're just going to go at their own pace. Slow and steady wins the race. To minimize the casualties on their side, to inflict maximum damage, of course, and slowly they're going to roll up the whole battlefield. That's what they're doing. Now, insofar as Russia's relationship with Europe, well, or let me phrase that, Europe's relationship with Russia. Europe did something incredibly stupid. Europeans were goaded by the Americans into a forced divorce from Russia. And because of it, the Europeans deprived themselves of all the resources that they depended on Russia to provide. Not just oil and gas. And by the way, they're getting ready to sanction oil. They're getting ready to spite their nose. They cut off their nose to spite their face. But the Europeans, they depend on the oil, the gas, the food, the metals, the industrial gases and other supplies. All of this stuff from Russia. And see, the European economy is running out of time. The European economy, well, first you're going to start to see shortages of food. And those shortages of food are going to start to happen in the late summer of this year. Because Europe does not produce enough of its own food. It depends on Russia, on Belarus, on Ukraine, on Kazakhstan for food supplies. And they're not going to get them. And so towards the late summer, that's when they're going to start to have food shortages. And the energy shortages are going to start really into the fall as you get closer to the winter. And you will see rolling blackouts in Amsterdam. And you will see food lines in Paris. And you will see lines to fill up gasoline tanks in cars in the UK. And by the end of the year, the European economy is likely to be completely cratered. I mean, like a lunar landscape. You know what I'm talking about? The economy of Europe is going to be decimated. Germany will have an incredibly high unemployment, and not only high unemployment, but it's the kind of unemployment that they will have. Its industrial manufacturing base will be completely destroyed by the end of the year. Europe doesn't have time. Europe needs to go crawling back to the Russians, rescind these stupid sanctions that only hurt the Europeans, and try to make nice with Putin and the Kremlin. That's their only hope. And it's a bitter answer. It's an answer that a lot of Europeans, they listen to me and they say never. But you have to ask yourself, do you want to go hungry by the end of the year? Do you want to go without electricity, without gasoline? Do you want to have double-digit unemployment? I'm not talking about like 10%, man. I'm talking, 20%, 25% unemployment. Is that what you really want? And let's not even talk about the fact that because of the war, Ukrainian grain supplies have been interrupted, and the Middle East and Africa depends on those grain supplies. So from the Middle East and Africa, Europe is going to have a huge swell of migrants. Europe is toast. Europe is running out of time. The Russians have all the time in the world because they already took the hit. See, the Europeans cut off Russia. And so the Russians have already absorbed the damage from the European sanctions. And the Europeans needed consumer products, certain electronic products, certain industrial products, and manufacturing products. That's what they needed from Europe. And those products are now gone, especially the consumer products. They're all gone. But Russia is still floating along. It's doing fine, as a matter of fact. And if you judge by the exchange rate, it's doing better than fine. I personally don't put that much stock in the exchange rate. I think that the ruble being so strong against the euro and the dollar is a temporary thing. It's not that important long term. Although long term, that is 5 to 10 years, the ruble will be the dominant currency insofar as commodities are concerned. But that's for another conversation. The point of this conversation. See, Russia already took the hit. They got hit really hard. They got the thermonuclear weapon of sanctions from the Europeans, and they survived. But the hit that is going to be inflicted on the Europeans is going to take a long time for it to blossom into its full power, okay? If the Russians got hit with a thermonuclear weapon, then the Europeans got hit with a series of time bombs. Little bombs spread out all over its society and its economy. See? The Europeans are going to be suffering, and suffering worse and worse as the weeks go by. And it's not just the inflation that's hitting them now. They have inflation, and they're worried about it, especially the Germans, but it's going to be much more. Food shortages. People in Europe are going to go hungry. For the first time in 80 years, people in Europe will go hungry. Europe doesn't have much time left. European leaders should wisen up, and you who are European listening to me, you should tell your leaders, because Europe can't afford to end its relationship with Russia. It depends too much on Russia. There is a limited amount of time that the European leaders have to go and make nice with the Russians, and they better make nice, because if they don't, you are going to go hungry. You are going to go without heating this coming winter and without any electricity this coming winter. Yeah, that's what's happening. The Russians have all the time in the world. The Europeans don't have any.